Military declares 8 wanted over Delta killings. First news editor regains freedom after 2 weeks in unlawful detention. Ningi demands reinstatement, threatens to drag Senate to court. And on the foreign scene, Faye officially declared winner of Senegal's presidential election. Hello and welcome to the news update. I am Martia Umar. Thank you for joining. The news in detail. The military high command on Thursday declared 8 persons wanted in connection with the killing of 17 soldiers and officers in Okwama community of Delta State. Among those declared wanted include Professor Ekpekpo Athol, a woman Igboli Ebi Ruben Baru, Akata Malawa David, and 4 other persons. The Director, Defense Media Operations, Edward Buba, who disclosed this at the press briefing at Defense Headquarters in Abuja, said no bounty is placed on the wanted persons. Buba called on the stakeholders and traditional rulers across the country, particularly in the Niger Delta, to help the military in fishing out those who had been declared wanted. The military authorities on Thursday released the detained editor of First News, Segun Olatunji, who was reportedly abducted from his home in Lagos State on Friday, March 15, 2024. A military officer who confirmed Olatunji's release said he was the secretary of Nigerian Guild of Editors, and the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, had at a press briefing at Defense Headquarters on Thursday said the military was not known for abducting journalists. The International Press Institute, the Nigerian Guild of Editors, and Olatunji's employer had in a separate statement faulted this incarceration, asking authorities to either release the editor or charge him to court.
Downstairs, I saw soldiers everywhere inside the compound. They were everywhere, they are taking position. When we got outside the gate, I saw about 3 vehicles. They came about 3 vehicles. You know, all kinds of people were there. Army personnel, Air Force personnel, DIA, and then some others, all fully armed. Then they bundled me into the vehicle, and then we started going. At first, I thought they were taking me to DMI in Apapa. I was wondering whether that place was still in existence. Then, when we got to the Air Force base, they made a detour and entered the base, and then they took me straight to in front of the office of the National Air Defense Force Corps, where we now waited. We waited for about 3 hours. I didn't know they were waiting for a military aircraft to come from Abuja to pick me. We were there. After a while, when the aircraft came, then somebody came to me and said, "Give me your glasses." Before then, they had already handcuffed me. Then somebody came and said, "Give me your glasses." I gave him the glasses, and then they put a blindfold on me. And then they moved me into the aircraft, and then we took off.
Now, a federal high court in Borno has ordered the release of no fewer than 313 suspected terrorists arrested by the military. The court ordered their release for lack of evidence to nail the suspect after investigation. The Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Buba Edward, disclosed this during the operational briefing on Thursday in Abuja. He said the court ordered the release for want of evidence after the conclusion of investigation and other ancillary matters. He said accordingly they would be handed over to the Borno State government for further action. The senator representing Bauchi Central in the Senate, Abdul Ningi, has written to the Senate President Godswill Akpabio demanding that the suspension placed on him be lifted. Ningi, who wrote Akpabio through his lawyer Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, noted that if his suspension was not lifted, in the next 7 days, he would drag the Senate before the Federal High Court. The Senate on March 12 sent Ningi on 3-month suspension over his claim that the 2024 budget was padded to the tune of 3.7 trillion naira. Ningi, in a media interview, claimed that while the budget passed by the National Assembly for the 2024 fiscal year was 25 trillion naira, the one being executed by the presidency was 28.7 trillion naira. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has disowned Wednesday's Labour Party National Convention in Anambra. The Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman, Rotimi Oyekomi, stated this while speaking with journalists in Abuja on Thursday. Oyekomi stressed that the conduct of the convention was not monitored by INEC. INEC added that Labour Party failed to comply with Section 82, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act of 2022, which states that the political parties shall give INEC at least 21 days notice of convention, Congress, conference or meeting. Justice Abubakar Kotigi of the FCT High Court in Jabi, Abuja, has dismissed the charges of fraud, bribery and conspiracy filed against the former Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Adoke, by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Ruling on the no-case submission made by Adoke, Justice Kotigi said that the EFCC failed to prove its charges of fraud, bribery and money laundering and ruled that the defendant has no case to answer. He discharged and acquitted the former minister on all count charges. The judge said that the allegations of illegal tax waivers granted to Shell and Eni was not corroborated by the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) or any authority. On the alleged 300 million naira bribe said to have been given to Adoke by Aliyu Abubakar, the court ruled that the EFCC did not provide the necessary evidence to prove its case. The EFCC had earlier conceded that it did not have sufficient evidence to oppose the no-case application by Adoke, who was listed as first defendant. The National Association of Telecommunications Subscribers has requested that the Nigerian Communications Commission extend the deadline scheduled for the disconnection of telephone lines not linked to the national identification number beyond Friday, March 29, 2024. The subscribers' body argued that telco agents were failing to capture all necessary information needed for verification, just as it also cited difficulties in uploading the captured data on the National Identity Management Commission server. The president of NATCOMS, Abdul, said on Wednesday that the NCC needed to order telcos not to disconnect telephone lines, considering the ongoing difficulties faced by subscribers. The telecom regulator had insisted that there will be no changes to the deadline for the next phase of disconnection. You're still watching the news update on Trust Television. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at a military youth cache that claimed the life of a 15-year-old boy in Katsina. Details of this story and more after the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching the news update on Trust Television. Let's take a look at our major stories again. We told you earlier that military declares 8 wanted over murder of soldiers. And the First News editor regains freedom after 2 weeks unlawful detention. Now the news in detail, or moving on rather. So now the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, on Thursday stated that the Lagos state recorded a 1.5 trillion naira domestic debt in the fourth quarter of 2023 to emerge the state with the highest public debt portfolio. NBS document tagged commodity price index in terms of trade. Quarter 4 2023 added that Lagos was followed by Delta with a debt portfolio of 373.41 billion naira. According to the report, Jigawa recorded the lowest domestic debt with 42.76 billion naira, following Kebbi with 60 billion naira. On external debt, MBS noted that Lagos has the highest external debt in Q4 of 2023 with $1.24 billion, followed by Kaduna with $587 million, while Borno recorded the least with $20.49 million. Parents of a young man killed by a stray bullet allegedly fired by military personnel in the Asian city of Katsina recently are demanding for justice, and the incident involved the 15-year-old Abdul Umar happened last Saturday and following a clash between some military personnel and a group of youth in the city. Abdullahi Yamadi tells us more.
Disagreement between the soldiers and a horse rider ignited the clash. Residents alleged that the soldiers went back to their barracks and mobilized their colleagues to the area and started beating people and shooting randomly, leaving many residents with various degrees of injuries. Already, the remains of Abdul Umar has been laid to rest at Old Dantakum Cemetery in Katsina Metropolis amid sorrow and tears by family and friends of the deceased. Father of the deceased 75-year-old Umar Lawal is appealing to the authorities concerned to bring to justice the soldiers that killed his 15-year-old son, Abdul Umar, who is an SS2 student of Katsina College. Umar Lawal, who was emotionally disturbed following the tragic incident, narrates how he received the news of the event few minutes after Abdul left him at home for an errand. My son, Abdurrahman, came to me with some requests that fateful night, which I gave him some money, and he left. A few minutes after, I was told that he was shot dead. To all those who can support me, kindly tell them to do me a favor. I'm demanding justice for Abdurrahman. Simple. However, the senator representing Katsina Central Senatorial District, Abdulaziz Yaradua, promised to follow the matter to its logical conclusion.
We came here to condole with the family of a boy of 12 years old that I just learned about yesterday that was killed here by security operatives. Right now we cannot determine the security operatives that came here, to shoot indiscriminately, thereby, killing the small boy and injuring another person who is lucky to be alive.
Other family members also vowed to follow up the matter to its logical conclusion because the late Abdul was not by the roadside and also was not among the youth that clashed with the soldiers. This young man was lucky to have escaped death by one of the stray bullets which penetrates his shop, leaving some traces. Some human rights groups, angered by the incident, lamented over the frequency of attacks on civilians by armed uniformed men, especially around Kofarguga area of Katsina Metropolis.
It is part of the soldiers' culture. When they come to the civilian, they just keep behaving like, I don't know how to call them, but...
Observers say it is advisable for the military to concentrate on the current war against banditry and other crimes, other than engaging unarmed civilians into clashes, leading to frequent loss of lives and property. Abdullahi Yamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And away from Katsina, following the conclusion of collation of votes Diomaye Faye has officially been declared winner of the presidential election in Senegal, winning 54.28% of votes in the first round. Reports from the country's vote counting commission, which falls under the judiciary, stated that Faye placed well ahead of the governing coalition's candidate and former Prime Minister Amadou Ba, who had 35.79% of the votes. The victory for Faye, who was only freed from prison 10 days before the election, still has to be validated by Senegal's top constitutional body, which could happen in a few days. Faye, who is 44, who has said he wants a break from the current political system, is set to become the youngest president in Senegal's history. It will be the first time since independence from France in 1960 that an opponent has won in the first round.
I salute the approach of the other candidates who, without exception, have honored a very Senegalese tradition without even waiting for the official results to be announced by the authorized state bodies. Their congratulatory messages are eloquent testimony to their greatness. I would like to say to the international community and to our bilateral and multilateral partners that Senegal will always honor its commitments. It will remain a friendly country and a secure and a reliable ally for any partner that engages with us in virtuous, respectful, and mutually productive cooperation.
Respectueuse et mutuellement productive.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has congratulated Bassirou Faye on his election as the president of the Republic of Senegal. He also congratulated the incumbent president Macky Sall for overseeing an election widely deemed as peaceful and transparent. In a statement signed by his special advisor on media and publicity, Ajere Ngalale, Tinubu noted that President-elect Faye comes with a great promise and a sterling record, wishing him success as he takes on the important job of leading the good people of Senegal. The Nigeria's leader said that the success of the presidential election in Senegal and the successful conduct of the general election in Liberia a few months ago have affirmed his long-held conviction that the taproot of democracy is deeply established in West Africa and will only grow stronger as it is watered by good governance, justice, and fairness to all. Faye emerged as Senegal's president-elect after an unprecedented victory at the presidential election on Sunday. 4 people, including a teenage girl, were killed and at least 5 injured after a man went on a stabbing spree at multiple addresses in the U.S. state of Illinois. Rockford City Police said in a statement that the stabbing took place on Wednesday afternoon and that a 22-year-old suspect has been arrested. Rockford is located about 90 miles northwest of Chicago, and those killed involve a 15-year-old girl, a 63-year-old woman, and 2 men aged 49 and 22. Still on the international scene, away from the international scene, now to sports. Heartland Queens made a light work of the much-hyped Oriental Derby against next-door neighbours Abia Angels with a 4-1 masterclass brutal demolition. And the Derby is Nigeria's Women's Football League Match 11 reverse fixture clash at the main bowl of Dan Anyam Stadium in Owerri on Wednesday. The game was rightly tagged for good reasons, vexed or revenge, but it was not to be after all, as the Owerri mainstream did not allow the visitors minutes to settle down in the game before the goal rush commences. The 4-1 victory ensured that Owerri Land ladies achieved the avowed double over the sisters' side, whom they had clearly beaten 2-1 in the first-term fixture clash in Aba. Also in sports, Chelsea have booked their place in the Women's Champions League semi-finals for second running with a comfortable aggregate victory over Ajax. Emaha's side, who are chasing the quadruple this season, had a 3-0 lead from the first leg and only needed to complete the job at Stamford Bridge. The Blues could face defending champions Barcelona next, who have a 2-1 lead going into Thursday's quarterfinal with Norway's Brann. Now with that, we have come to the end of the news update at this hour. For more programming and documentaries as well as news, follow our live stream on YouTube and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Martia Umar. On behalf of the news crew, I'd like to say thank you for watching and stay tuned.